Alrighty. Hey everybody, we're going to give it a few minutes for everybody to kind of get into the live stream. So just hang tight and we'll start in about 5 minutes. How's the audio? Okay. Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So we're going to go through a few things today. We're going to do a little bit of a walkthrough of the field. We have some of the field set up as much as we possibly could at the moment. Some things aren't going to look exactly the same at competition. They're going to look a little bit look better cosmetically. So we got to paint and stuff. So let's go ahead and get started. So there we go. Yeah. So like I said, we're gonna go through the game, but first I just kind of want to introduce everybody. We got a little crew here set up. I'm Gavin. I'm the director of programming here at Streamworks, and I've been here for a while now. Very involved in the Robot Drone League game, and I'm very excited to share Scarecrow with everyone. So I'll let Quentin hop up. He's running my my cue cards down here.
So I'm Quentin Faulkner. I am the director of interns here, along with Gavin. I've been here for a while also, so looking forward to this year's game, and hopefully you all enjoy the Q&A.
And then we got Hai over here. He's running our camera and our stream.
Yep. So I'm Hai Huynh. I'm the studio manager here.
Yep. So this is your little skeleton crew today. There's 3 of us, and let's go ahead and dive into some of the questions that we've received. So big thank you to some of the schools who submitted questions, and we're hopeful that we can answer a lot of these questions today. And we're going to leave this chat open throughout this for questions to come about. We're going to have Quentin monitoring the chat. We're going to make sure that we answer any of your questions that you have in the chat as well. So let's go ahead and dive into the first question. So has Streamworks built a competition-ready field complete with game elements? If so, can we visit to take measurements and get a better idea of what to expect? So all of the measurements are going to be provided in an autonomous measures guide. So this is actually going to be released today along with the revision of this manual. We're going to have everything laid out in terms of distance from starting zones and heights. That way you're able to pre-program your robots and your drones for your autonomous programs. So another question we have are the possible points for each task based on only having access to our side of the field. Will we get access to the other side of the field? So this is a great question. We're actually putting this into the manual today. It will be released today with all the stuff. You will have access to the other side of the field through the back side of the cornfield. So we're going to go ahead and pan over to the cornfield. So at competition, you'll see it's going to look a little bit prettier. It's going to be a little bit different. You're going to have a fence around here. You're going to have a fence gate. Right now, it's marked off with tape. So this is your cornfield. In the back section over here, you're going to have an empty space that leads to the opposing alliance's fallow. And so your robot would be able to gain access to the other side of the field at the 2 minutes. So when 8 minutes of the match have gone by, the MC usually will say, hey, 2-minute mark, and you'll see the drones, the robots are now accessing both sides. So, you will be able to achieve points on the other side of the field during those last 2 minutes. So I hope that answers that question. So let's get to our next question. Could we get some clarification throughout the game document on teleoperation and autonomous period point differences? So this is laid out mostly in that autonomous and teleop period section of the manual. So I'll go ahead and kind of reiterate some of that. In the first 60 seconds, everything is quadrupled. So this is to incentivize the use of autonomous programs in that first 60 seconds because you will be able to achieve quadruple the points. So in the manual, those tasks are laid out in their teleop points. So if you see that a task says 100 points at the top for all the subtasks combined, that 100 is in a teleop configuration. So you could imagine in the autonomous period, it's going to be quadruple points. So you'll have 400 possible points. And if you do this task during the teleop period in autonomous, so this is after those 60 seconds have ended, there's no longer quadruple. You still get double points if you do this task in autonomous because we don't want to constrict the autonomous features to just 60 seconds. So yeah, you get those double points if you do it throughout. Now, this was a great question, and this is something that the officials, we talked about a lot because of this question. I think it was a great question. Are we allowed to use Google to search for answers to STEM questions during matches? So, yes, you will be allowed to use Google or other search engines. And actually, the motivation for this is to recommend the use of artificial intelligence, text generators, things of that nature. in order to prepare ourselves for the use of AI in the workforce. So yes, but I will note here, it is not guaranteed that we will have internet access at these competitions. So it's not, we don't recommend relying solely on these things. So sharpen those minds, come ready to do some algebra, do some science. But if you have that ability, yes, you are allowed to use Google. So this comes from the waterworks repair section, and we're going to talk about this. We actually have some of it built right here. If we hit something, does that mean we cannot earn points? Would that mean we must return and try again? So this is a great question, and this is important for the autonomous period. So in the autonomous period, you do not get to reset. You must run your program off of one button, right? So I press start on my program, and it's going to do whatever I've told it to do, whether or not it successfully completes that. So if I did collide into something during the autonomous period, that is where my robot's going to stop. Unless your robot has sensors on it and it knows where it's at, it knows how to reset itself in one program and do that. You're welcome to do that, but it has to be one start program. So in the teleop period, though, you just need to drive back to your starting position or wherever you have it measured and do it again. Because in the autonomous period or the teleop period, you're welcome to do it again as many times as you need in order to accomplish it. So you just get those double points and not quadruple. So where is the new pipe section? Do we have to obtain it, or will it be given to us at the control or the driver station here? So it will be given to you by the ref at the driver station when your team requests it. So let's go ahead and go through this task a little bit with what we have out here. So ignore the whole conduit here. We can't move it out. But basically, we have this water pipe here. There's actually going to be a water tank and everything over here. But you can see this is black. It's the dead pipe. It's busted. So you actually have to bring your robot over and pick up the busted pipe. And so I'm going to take it back to my driver station. So under here, my human player will then retrieve it from my robot. And because we are on the Alliance, the red Alliance side, you can see down here, my robot will carry out the red section of pipe, and it will drop it right onto there. And so that's that task laid out. It's pretty simple. So yeah, it will be given to you at the lab station when your team requests it. So is the pipe section valve going to require much force to turn? So the pipe section valve, while it isn't in this one right now, we did some testing. It'll be right over here. No, it does not take much force. We noticed it takes moderate force with the RoboMaster EP core, so it's achievable with the RoboMaster. Therefore, it's achievable with bigger robots as well, easily. So the solar panel optimization. So what are the math calculations going to look like? I'm actually going to show you. I got the sheet pulled up. So let's go ahead, move over to our desktop. So let me get this pulled up here. Okay. So this is prompt B. There's currently 4 prompts. There's going to be more in development. But basically, there's a lot of different ways for time and zone. So let's go through this. Let's talk about this and how this works. So this is a narrative, right? The Photon Farm has requested solar panels on their property in order to power their BioBuilder accelerator. A survey crew has determined that the northern zone was the optimum location for the placement of the solar panel. The time of day is 5:37 p.m. So down here in the notes, I don't imagine a team would need to read this more than the first time. This just kind of lays out what you are to expect. So before the solar panel can be optimized, it is necessary to have cleaned off the panel using a drone's downward thrusting force, or prop wash. So you'll see out there, we'll show you on the camera as well, there's some leaves on the solar panel, and so they're very light. They're made of a like a paper plastic type feel, and during our testing, they blew right off instantly with the Telo. So Telos can do it. If you have anything bigger, of course it's going to do that. So let's continue with the note here. Zone 2 is the starting neutral zone. So zone 2 is optimized for 12 p.m. When determining angle, teams are to consider that any time given after 12 p.m. suggests the panel needs to be in the left-hand angle pointed west, and any given time before 12 p.m. suggests that the panel needs to be in the right-hand angle pointed east. So if I look here with my my little map here on the field, my alliance zone is in this bottom section here. This is where my starting zone is, right? So zone 3 is the south. Zone 1 is the north. And so it starts in zone 2, and the solar panel is going to be flat. So that's the starting position. So you either have 2 different zones to move it to, and you have 2 different angles to move it to. So you have a few different combinations there, and everyone's going to be different. So just be sure to read those prompts. Basically, after you know this the first time, you're just going to look and say, it needs to be in the northern zone, and it's at 537, so it needs to be pointed in the western configuration. So simple enough, I think. So let's go ahead and move back to the field. So let's go ahead. Must we use a drone to clear the solar panel? The video shows some contradiction. Okay, so basically, it does lay out in the manual that it needs to be your drone. So you can see here my panel. So these leaves, they're very light, very easy to knock off. You just fly your drone over it, it's going to go right off. So you can do this autonomously, which would be a fairly simple task considering your starting zone's over here. So you could take off, and you just got to pretty much fly a straight path, and it knocks them off. So, but it has to be completely clear. So if you just knock one leaf off, that's not enough. You got to knock off both the leaves, or there's going to be either 2 or 3 leaves. It's going to switch up. But either way, they're pretty simple to knock off. So another question about the solar panel, how easy will it be? I kind of mentioned it over there. The Teleos handle it with minimal effort. The solar panel placement. Will we have to pick the solar panel up or just move it along a track? So that's a great question. It'll actually be on roller bearings, and it takes minimal to moderate effort with a RoboMaster. So you can see here, this is my northern zone, zone 1, and this is my southern zone, zone 3. I can just glide it along. It's on a track, so I move it there as long as it's fully inside of zone, this zone 1 up here in the north. I get the points, or back here. So, but it's going to start here in this configuration, and after it's been cleaned off, I can then tilt it with my bar here and into the western configuration or the eastern configuration. So I'm going to reset it just like so. So a fun, simple task, I think. It'll be pretty cool. So let's talk about the genetic editing task with the cornfield harvest. So let's go back over to our manual. We're going to talk about the corn in depth so we all kind of understand what's going on here. So up here is on page 21 where it starts. This might change because of the updates we're going to be putting in the manual today, sending out. So the first thing we've got to do is inspect the bad corn taken by the robot from the crop field and look for a colored dot on the bottom. So I'm going to do this in just a second. I'm going to show you how this works. Then we're going to use the fungi identification sheet to identify which fungus is causing the corn to be diseased. So every time we do this, we get 5 points for identifying it properly. So I'm going to tell my judge, hey, it's this disease or this fungus, and you get the points. Then you're going to take your Petri dish of the identified fungus's DNA to the corresponding section of the accelerator. So you're not actually putting anything inside of this. This is going to be sealed. There might be some logos inside. And this is going to just be dropped off into the accelerator here that you see in this sheet. This sheet is, we've actually updated the CAD here. If you maybe have seen in the animation, it is more like a coin slot. This will make it a little bit more accessible for our RoboMasters, where the claw does not stretch out as wide, so they'll be able to grab it like this. and drop it in as a coin and it'll roll in, right? So you get 35 points per Petri dish. So there's a lot of points to be gathered here because you get some for the coin or the corn collection and you get some for the Petri dish. So once the seed has been processed, it'll drop out from the accelerator here. And we have a couple options here. So we can drop it with our drone into the fallow. Fallow here on the field. I can show you right now with the camera. So we can see down there. It's going to look a little bit different. You're going to have a green turf. Those aren't cut yet. So, but that's where they're going to be dropped off into. And you can do that with your robots or your drones. So let me switch back. So with my drone, I get 75 points per drop because it's going to be a little bit difficult of a task to make a drone drop that. But the seeds are going to have a hook on the top of them. They're small seeds, about that big. They've got a little hook on them. And that you get 75 points. Now, if we use our robot, we get 30 points. But what's important to note about that is while it's faster maybe to do it with your robot. Before you use the GES, planting the GES, you have to move the debris. And so we're gonna have a little tractor. It's an old broken down tractor on the field that's blocking the front entrance of the fallow. And you can't gain access with your robot because that's literally right there in the middle. So you gotta move that out. You can just roll it out. You can drag it out, right? And then once you've done that, you get 35 points just for moving it. And then you can plant the seeds, right? So let me go ahead and show you the corn with the fungi identification sheet. So let's switch back to the field. So over here in our cornfield, we have healthy corn and we have dead corn, right? So our healthy corn, we get points just for harvesting it. But you can see here we have 3 different height levels. We have a tall stalk, we have a medium stalk over here, and we have a low stalk. So for every corn you retrieve on the high stalk, you get 15 points. For every corn you retrieve on the middle stalks, you get 10 points. And every corn you retrieve on the low stalk is 5 points. So once you retrieve the healthy corn, they're just the points. Those are done with, right? Now, with the dead corn, this is what's important is for the GES, and we're going to take it over here in a second. It has a dot here that we're going to talk about there. But one thing I want to mention before we do that is there are the different levels. We're not going to put the dead corn on the tall stalks. So they're only going to be dispersed throughout the middle level and the low level stalks. So let's go ahead and go back over to this. Let's go ahead and pull this up. Okay, so I have a fungi identification sheet here, and there's 4 different fungi that commonly affect corn. And so what I'm going to do is I get my corn, and at the lab station, my human player is going to take off the cap on the bottom. And we want to be gentle with this, not to break it, but basically there's 3 different shucks. We'll just pull it off. There's a little spike there, and we just pull it off. And already the one I removed is the spot. I don't have to remove all of them as long as I can see the spot. And I can clearly, it can't be like this and be like, oh, it's red. I got to show my judge, hey, it's red. I'll show my judge over my shoulder. Hey, this is the, right here, I'm going to butcher the name, but I think it's the Ustalago matus. So it's a type of corn fungus. And so once I've done that, I get 5 points for identification as laid out here. And I can proceed with the Petri dish, right? So. Awesome. Let's go ahead and move on back to the field. So what happens if we damage corn or other plants? So intentional damaging of the props leads to red cards. So if accidentally hit, an official will replace the dropped corn. So, on the field, they accidentally bump into it. We'll have someone put one back out there. But repeated damaging, if it appears intentional, or even it's accidental, but it's still damaging, continuously, yellow or red cards may be issued, but it's on a per basis. So, yep, let's go ahead. Look at our next one. So this goes back to the corn points. How do we get corn? And can we get corn from the other side? So yes, you can get corn from the other side, but remember, it has to be within that last 2 minutes, right? So the corn here is on the different heights, and they're worth different point values. So remember that. And the bad corn is what you want for the genetically engineered seeds. So strategy-wise, you might want to prioritize the dead corn over the other corn. But they're both the good points, good easier points. So move on. Awesome. Power line repair. So what will getting the power line look like? Could we use a magnet, or must we have some form of gripper attached to our drone? So let's kind of go over that a little bit. It might be a little bit hard to see with the camera angle, but basically, our accelerator is going to look a lot prettier than this, right? This is just an example of where it's going to be located. So we're going to have a power line coming out of the accelerator, and we have to attach the power. So there will be a magnet on the end of this power here, and there's going to be a magnet up there. I'm going to show you where that will be located. And you're going to have a 3D printed mount that's right here near the magnet, and it's going to have a hook on it. So you can just use a drone with some form of hook down here, and you can hook into that. That basically it's like an eye hook, and you can take that up there and do that. You could also use a gripper, but we're making it accessible to teams who don't have grippers or can't use grippers. So I'll pick it up with my drone, and I'll take it up to the top of here, and there's going to be the opposite magnet here, and it's going to click in just like that. So it'll click, and for our purposes here, I'm just going to kind of tie it off so it's not in my way. But this is where it'll attach up here to the top, and then you'll see the power has now been run to the accelerator. If I can't get my drone to take the power up there, now this is worth more points. You can look through the menu. You can see this is worth a lot more points than the solar panel attachment. But if this is inaccessible with my drone, that's not a big deal because I can use my robot. And so on the north end of our solar panel here, it's either the north or the south, but there's going to be a post similar to that. It's going to be shorter, right? And it's going to have the opposite magnet, and you'll be able to actually connect it there. So if you can't reach that, don't worry. There's a backup. So let's go ahead and move on to the next question. So I think this one was answered with the power pole magnet. There we go. Methane generator. Awesome. So are the total points for this 5 or 10 per scrap for the methane generator? So let's kind of gravitate this way with scraps. So you can see the food scraps are going to be laid out on the field within this 2x4 zone right here off the starting zone, and they're going to be scattered in a random configuration, usually about 2 to 4 food per square. And basically, what I can do is I can take my robot over here, I can pick it up, and I can drop it into the methane generator, but it's relatively tall. It's a little bit taller for the RoboMasters. So we actually are allowing the robot to bring it to the human player over here. You may not be able to see me. The human player will actually drop this into the methane generator. So if the human player drops it into the methane generator, you're going to get 5 points per food scrap. If the robot does it, it's 10 points for food scrap. There are a total of 20 food scrap out on your side, and so that's a total of 200 points if your robot does it, and 100 points if your human player does it. Now, remember, in that last 2 minutes, you are allowed to traverse to the other side of the field, and you can collect as many of theirs as possible, but you must return the food scraps over there to your methane generator. Okay. So this was answered, I think, with the food scraps placement. Yep. Field mapping. So let's talk about how this works here. So this is one of those more low-hanging fruit type missions. It's supposed to be a simple way to get your drone up and moving in that autonomous period. So the drone mapping, your drone will start in the starting zone. It can either start here or it can start in this starting zone, and you're going to take off and you're going to traverse over the pipe here to the corner. You're going to turn. You're going to go down to the end of the cornfield, turn. You're going to come down here to the corner, turn, and then you're going to go back to where you started. So you're just doing a little box just around your edge, starting in front of the pipe. And this is just a simulated field mapping. You're not actually mapping the field or taking any images. So this is just a simple task. It's only worth 15 points in Teleop. So that means in the Teleop period, if you do autonomous with this, that's 30 points. And if you do it in the autonomous period, which is the hopeful thing here, is 60 points. So yeah, just a simple box. Easy way to collect some autonomous points with your drone. So let's move on to the next one. So this also pertains to this. Are we allowed to complete unlimited field mapping cycles? So can you keep going? There's 60, 60, 60 until the end of the autonomous period. No, this task can only be completed once. So this also means that since you're an alliance, your red team over here, your friends, they cannot do this task if you're doing this task. So you need to coordinate with your hey, we've already got the code for this. We're gonna try this, and so one team on your alliance will complete this task. So, are we required to take pictures of the field during field mapping? So no, kind of what I mentioned. It's just a simulated mission. The water quality test. So what exactly will we need to retrieve the water samples? So over here, you're gonna have your water tower. And on top of the water tower, you're going to have your water sample. And it's a small little 3D printed device. It's about this big. We've done testing with it, and the Telos are capable of picking it up fairly easy. So inside of your capsule is a little water test tube, essentially. You're going to take it over to your human station, and don't worry, it's not going to spill out. It's got a cap on it. So you can take it over here, land, and your human player can grab it from your drone. And you're actually going to take it over to your lab station with your human player, and you're going to have pH strips, and you're going to do a real life pH test. So the judge will be right there behind you. You're just going to drop in the strip into the water, and you're going to say, okay, it's this level, maybe it's 7.0 or something like that. And the judge is going to verify, yep, that's correct. And so you get the points for that. So let's talk about the beacons, RFID tests. So let me go through the whole beacon situation. So there will be 2 beacons on the field. Both are on the arms of the Scarecrow. So you're going to have a Scarecrow right in the center. There's going to be a Scarecrow on your side and a Scarecrow on the other side, butted up against each other pretty much. And they're going to almost be like one Scarecrow essentially, and their arms are going to be out. And on each one of the arms, there is going to be a beacon. And it's a landing pad beacon, and we're going to talk about why that is the case. So you're going to have 2 total beacons on the field. So both are going to start at a neutral grayish color. White maybe is going to look similar to that. And they don't require a hover. What you're going to do is you're actually going to land on the pad. And so basically, this is for better consistency. We've seen in the past with Robot Drone League beacons, it's a little bit harder to navigate over them and hover long enough for it to capture that, hey, yes, this is a red drone or a blue drone. So this way, it will have a little bit more consistency. So they're going to land. Your drone will land. This runs off of RFID. The range right now works well with what our pad is. So it's going to be about a 12 by 12 inch square. And if it does not illuminate based off of the RFID, if maybe there's a lost connection in there, and maybe the range is slightly off or something, we will be able to see that, hey, you landed, so you get the points for it, and it'll illuminate. So once you've landed, it's going to illuminate with your alliance's colors. And a Teleop beacon capture is 50 points. So what's going to happen is it's not a per second basis, or you can't just keep capture, right? So what's going to happen is once you capture that beacon, it is your beacon for 60 seconds. So it will not be able to be turned red, or if I'm red, it will not be able to turn blue by the other alliance. This will remain my beacon for 60 seconds, and I get those 50 points, right? At the end of the 60 seconds, I can capture it again, or someone else can capture it. What's important to note here is that your drone cannot stay on the beacon for those full 60 seconds, because then it's uncapturable by the other drone. You have to remove your drone from that space for the next capture. So once it goes through those 60 seconds, it'll go neutral again, and then it can be captured. So in the autonomous period, that 50 is worth 200 points because it's quadrupled. So if you capture that first 60 seconds, you get that one beacon, right? You get those 200 points. You're even able to take off, land on the beacons, take back off, and land on the other beacon. That's a possibility, but you might collide with the other drone potentially. So just something to consider. In the teleop period, if you do it autonomously from a starting position, you will get 100 points for that capture. So let's go ahead and move on to the next question. So just some extra things with our corn here. So let's move back over here to the corn. If our corn, when we're retrieving our corn, right, my robot needs to grab the corn. You can't drag the stalk until it falls off. You can't purposely bump the stalk. So this is something that judges are going to be looking out for. You're going to have side judges. You're going to have driver station judges. So we need to make sure that you're grabbing the corn and not the stalk, or bumping into it, because that can result in a yellow card or even a red card depending on the situation. So now let's dive into the beetle identification. So let's check out the orchard. I think this is one of my favorite parts about Scarecrow this year. We actually got on the phone with an agent from the National Forestry Agency. He actually told us all about beetles and how they're affecting orchards and other types of trees. So we kind of built that into this year's game. So essentially, you're going to have 6 different types of beetles on your trees, and you're going to take your robot and pick up one of the beetles. So I'm going to pick up this beetle here off the shelf. So we have 2 shelves. We have a low shelf and a high shelf. They're both worth the same amount of points. It's just the branches. So I'm going to take this over to the computer, and let's talk about this. So let me pull this up here. I have my beetle identification sheet here. So similar to the other documents that are going to be at your driver station when you're there to compete, you don't have to ask for this. This will be on the driver station. So right here, this one's probably one of the easiest ones to identify, just based off of color. So this is the Dynasties Hercules. I hope I said that right. But I'm just going to identify. I say, hey, judge, that's what this is. You get points for identifying it. You get points for retrieving it, right? So all the beetles you possibly can. There is 10 beetles out on the field. So you have 5 trees, 2 beetles per tree. So that is the beetle identification sheet. So you can see you got a bunch of different beetle types here. And you're just going to do your best to Lacana service or something like that. You know what I mean? So let's go ahead, go back over to the field. So I think that about sums up everything that we had in terms of questions. Do we have any questions in the Q&A? Okay, well, I hope everyone got a little something out of this. You're welcome to contact us and go over some of the questions you may have. We have a forum now on the Robot Drone League website. You just go over to the More tab on the right-hand side, and you can hit Forum, and you're welcome to ask us questions there, and we'll try to answer. There's 3 different places to ask questions. That we have a general slash like a manual or rules section. So this is where you ask these kind of questions. We also have a robot help section where you can ask even some technical type questions, and we recommend, we encourage, I guess, our RDL members to help each other out. You know, if there's a technical question, maybe you know the answer to with the RoboMasters or with your advanced kits, you know, help out your competitors. We also have a drone help guide, or not a guide, a forum. So you're able to ask us some questions. We can do our best to answer them. And also, again, you know, feel free to answer if you know the answer, right? So we hope to make a RDL Junior walkthrough soon, and we're going to talk a little bit about the RDL Junior field, talk about maybe the RVRs a little bit, show you some of that, and the Telos. So stay tuned for all that. And with that pretty much concludes our Q&A. So thank you all for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you in this year's game, Scarecrow.